Tonight, you'll probably do something completely ordinary. Step out to the car, take the trash to the curb, walk the dog down to where the streetlights give up and the dark takes over. To you, it's nothing. A normal step, a normal sound, a normal human going about a normal night. But somewhere out past the edge of your vision, another body has already noticed you. A deer stops chewing. A fox flattens under a hedge. A raccoon lifts its head from your garbage like it just heard its landlord pull into the driveway. And somewhere further out, an animal you'll never see decides you're not worth the risk and quietly leaves. You didn't chase anything. You didn't raise a hand. You didn't even know it was there. But the second your presence hit the air, the math changed. That animal's body didn't wait for evidence. Its muscles tightened first. Its breathing shifted first. Its brain ran the oldest calculation in nature: danger. And here's the strange part. It's not really afraid of you. The soft, slightly tired human holding a bag of dog waste is not the threat. It's afraid of a reputation. One your species started building 300,000 years ago and has never once stopped adding to. You just happen to be the latest face wearing it. That's what this video is actually about. Not just why animals fear humans, but why the fear outran the hunter, jumped species, and rewired the planet. Because once you understand where that reputation came from and why nothing has ever let it fade, you'll never look at a spooked squirrel the same way again. Let's start with the easy answer, because the easy answer is wrong. The easy answer is animals fear humans because humans hunt animals. Clean, simple, done. Except it falls apart the moment you poke it. Because animals don't only run from hunters. They run from hikers. They run from voices. They run from roads, from campsites, from the smell of a person who left the trail an hour ago. In some places, they change where they eat. In others, they change when they move. Some abandon daylight entirely. And the truly unsettling detail, they react when there is no human in sight at all. A sound is enough. A scent is enough. A single footprint pressed into mud can be enough. Whatever we are, we've become the kind of presence that doesn't need to show up to change everything. So the real question isn't why animals run from us. It's what did we become that made the entire natural world start rearranging itself around a creature it used to consider a snack? To answer that, we have to go back and meet the ancient human. And honestly, on paper, he's not impressive. Picture the lineup of prehistoric predators. The lion, all muscle and jaw. The crocodile, patient as a rock. The leopard, built out of ambush. And then, shuffling into frame, the early human. No claws, no venom, no armor, no bone-crushing bite. Gets winded on a steep hill. At first glance, nature looked at this thing and thought, that's lunch. But this animal did something no predator had ever done at scale. It broke the patterns. And breaking the patterns turned out to be more dangerous than any claw ever invented. Because every predator before us came with an instruction manual. A lion had a rhythm. A crocodile had a place. A wolf had a sound. Prey animals had spent millions of years learning those manuals. A zebra learned when the grass went quiet. A deer learned the wind. A monkey learned which kind of silence meant a cat was close. The whole system ran on the idea that danger was predictable. Then the ancient human walked in and threw the manual out. We hunted in the heat of the day, when the big cats were sleeping. We hunted in groups when it suited us and alone when it didn't. We hunted with fire, with traps, with sharpened sticks thrown from a distance no claw could match. We followed tracks for hours. We set a trap in one place and waited in another. And the part that broke the animal kingdom's brain, we came back. We remembered what worked yesterday, we improved on it, and we taught it to the next guy. An animal could learn the rules of a lion. It could pass those rules to its young, and its young to theirs, until an entire species knew exactly how to stay alive around that particular threat. But we kept changing the rules. Every time nature thought it had us figured out, some ancient human somewhere invented a new way to be dangerous, and the whole hard-won manual was suddenly out of date. A cheetah has speed, and then it has exhaustion. A lion has force, and then it has to sleep. A crocodile has patience, but only near water. We had something none of them had. We could fail, go home, think about it, and come back better. Most predators are just bodies. Ancient humans were bodies carrying memory. And scientists have a name for what that turned us into. Not predator, not even apex predator, super predator. In 2015, researcher Darimont and his team combed through a global data set, More than 2,000 measurements of how fast we hunt and fish compared with wild predators, drawn from nearly every continent and ocean. The results are genuinely uncomfortable. Humans kill large carnivores, lions, bears, wolves, at roughly 9 times the rate those carnivores kill each other. 9 times. And in the ocean, we take adult fish at around 14 times the rate of natural marine predators. That number matters more than it looks, because most predators target the young, the sick, the slow, the unlucky. It's efficient, it's low risk. Ancient humans did the opposite. We went after the adults, the big ones, the strong ones. The animals other predators were smart enough to leave alone. We killed for food, for safety, for materials, and eventually for reasons no other animal has ever needed. A wolf kills because it has to eat. Humans built entire systems capable of erasing a population. That's not a predator having a bad day. That's a different category of pressure entirely. The kind that doesn't just thin a herd, but can end a lineage that survived every ice age before we showed up. And then a team of researchers found the cleanest proof of all, hiding in the least dramatic animal imaginable, the European badger. In 2016, biologists led by Liana Zanet and Michael Clinchy ran a beautifully simple experiment in the English countryside. They set up speakers near badger feeding sites and played different sounds: bears, wolves, dogs, and humans just talking. Ordinary conversation, the verbal equivalent of 2 people at a bus stop complaining about the weather. The badgers barely reacted to the wolves. They were a little wary of the bears and dogs, but when they heard human voices, they froze, they delayed feeding, and in many cases, they stopped eating altogether. Now here's why that is the entire argument compressed into one small striped animal. England hasn't had a wild wolf in centuries. It hasn't had a wild bear in something like 1,000 years. No badger alive has ever met either one. So this isn't some ancient instinct about carnivores misfiring. The only large predator these badgers have actually had to survive, generation after generation, is us. And out of everything in the lineup, we are the one they fear the most. That's not a memory of a lion. That's a reputation about humans, kept fresh by the humans who are still here. But we're not just frightening because we're dangerous. We're frightening because we're unpredictable. And in nature, unpredictable is the scariest thing there is. Think about how a prey animal survives. It reads patterns. A wolf hunts at dawn and dusk, so you avoid the open at dawn and dusk. A hawk works the fields, so you stay in cover. Knowing the pattern is the whole game. There's even a term for it in behavioral ecology: predator recognition. Animals sort threats into clean categories: big cat, bird of prey, canine. Each category comes with a preloaded response. And then there's us. We hunt at every hour. On land, in water, from the air. We hunt things we eat and things we don't. We're harmless for a decade and lethal on a Tuesday. From an animal's point of view, there's no pattern. We are a variable that cannot be solved. And when you can't solve the variable, the only rational strategy left is maximum avoidance, all the time. Now, if you're enjoying having your understanding of nature quietly dismantled, go ahead and subscribe, because this channel runs entirely on turning weird into, oh, that's terrifying. Anyway, it is not just the little guys. In 2017, Justine Smith's team at UC Santa Cruz ran the same trick on mountain lions in California, animals that kill prey larger than themselves and drag it uphill. When the lions heard human voices near their kills, they fled more often, waited far longer to come back, and cut their feeding time by more than half. An apex predator abandoning a meal it earned because a speaker murmured a few human sentences. Then in 2019, Justin Suraci scaled the whole idea up and found the truly unnerving part. He broadcast human speech across a whole stretch of wilderness and watched the entire community respond like a row of dominoes. Big carnivores pulled back and moved more cautiously. Medium ones, raccoons, foxes, went quiet and foraged less. And then lower down, the small mammals came out and fed more because everything that usually hunted them had retreated. One recording: no spear, no gun. Nobody even stepped into view. The mere idea of a human rippled through the food chain and rewrote who ate, who hid, and who waited. Ecologists call this a landscape of fear. Fear stops being a feeling inside one animal and becomes a feature of the environment itself. A trail goes unused. A watering hole becomes a nighttime-only gamble. And it scales to the entire planet. A 2018 study led by Caitlin Gaynor in the journal Science found that animals across 6 continents had become measurably more nocturnal, shifting their whole lives into darkness, not because of habitat loss, but simply because we were around. We are so frightening, we changed what time of day the natural world is willing to be awake. Millions of years of evolution built animals to live under the sun, and our presence alone convinced them to move their entire existence into the dark. Which raises the obvious question: if this fear is buried that deep, is any animal born without it? And the answer is where the whole reputation idea finally clicks into place. Because when you find animals with no human history, you find animals with no fear. The Galápagos are the classic case. When Darwin arrived in the 1830s, he was baffled. The animals just didn't move. He wrote about sitting beside birds that wouldn't fly off and nudging iguanas into the sea only to watch them calmly climb back out and sit next to him again. Marine iguanas, giant tortoises, blue-footed boobies, none of them ran because none of their ancestors had ever met us. The same thing shows up in Antarctica, where penguins stroll right up to researchers to inspect their gear. And the dodo, famously, was so unafraid of humans it would walk toward the hunters. Sailors called it stupid. It wasn't stupid. Nobody had taught it to be afraid yet. That's the proof. And it's also the twist that makes the whole thing finally make sense. Fear of humans isn't a factory setting. It isn't a fossil sleeping in the genome either. It's installed through experience and rewritten every generation. And when the threat disappears for long enough, the fear disappears right along with it, sometimes in just a few generations. So here's the distinction worth holding on to. The reputation is ancient. The fear is not. 300,000 years ago, our ancestors earned that reputation. But a reputation doesn't survive on its own. It survives because almost nowhere on Earth have we ever handed an animal a long enough stretch of pure harmlessness to let it forget. The roads, the dogs, the guns, the hunting, the sheer unpredictable presence of us. Every living generation keeps the account paid up. The badger doesn't remember a Stone Age hunter. It has simply never once been given a reason to stop believing what its kind learned about ours. And this is where it gets uncomfortably personal. Because most of us genuinely do not feel like monsters. We walk through the forest with headphones in, stop to photograph the deer, eat a granola bar, and feel like a guest. But wildlife doesn't read your self-image. It reads the record you leave behind. Footprints, scent, voices, roads, dogs, engines, light in the dark. To you, that's just the ordinary furniture of modern life. To an animal, every one of them is a signal. The deer doesn't know you only came for the view. The mountain lion doesn't know you're unarmed and a little afraid of it too. It only knows the human pattern has carried death often enough that the safe move is to disappear. So, the animal that froze at the top of this video was never really reacting to you specifically. It was reacting to a reputation, one your ancestors spent 300,000 years building, and one your own species has never let it forget. The endurance that let them outlast anything with a heartbeat. The cooperation that turned a weak individual into an unstoppable group. The tools that pushed danger further and further from the body. The language that meant a lesson never had to die with the person who learned it. Every one of those things is still stamped into how you move through the world, and every wild animal can still read it. We love to define ourselves by what we built: cities, music, medicine, the whole glowing catalog of civilization, and all of it is real. But to the rest of the living world, that's not the first fact about us. The first fact is older and simpler. The humans arrive and the risk changes. Civilization is the story we tell about ourselves. Fear is the story every other species learned about us. And both of them are true at the same time. We are the animal that paints caves, buries its dead, and stares up at the stars trying to understand them. We are also the animal that made bears retreat, deer freeze, and mountain lions abandon their food at the sound of a voice. So tonight, when you step out into the dark and something you can't see goes still, remember what you're actually touching. Not your reputation, their fear of it, an echo from a world where we weren't the background noise. We were the signal. We told ourselves we left nature behind a long time ago. Nature never stopped listening for us coming.